I wonder if that's working. Do, do. Oh, I think I'm live. Yay. Okay, I think that's working. I think I'm live. Da-da-da-da-da. I think my internet's working. That's always a good sign. Hi all, Erin Zen Warrior here. Don't forget, while we're here, to like and subscribe. Today we're having a bit of an interesting conversation, but as what I would refer to as a former empath myself, a reformed one, I hope, at least definitely working on it, I want to tackle the conversation of the empath. So to me, the way I see this is the empath is almost the diametrically sort of opposite end of the scale to the narcissist, and it's a sliding scale all the way along. Now, somewhere in there, that scale of narcissist and empath, they'll cross over. So we get that sort of the normal person, which is a bit of a mold of the empath and a mold of the narcissist. And I use this because I'm like, these are terms that people use almost as a diagnosis, and we need to be careful there. We need to be mindful that we're not diagnosing anyone. We're just sort of talking hypothetically and generally in terms that most of them apply to us at some stage in our life. Narcissism or this idea of empathy, and also selfish versus unselfish, constructively selfish versus destructively selfish. All these things are ideas that we want to become aware of as we go on our journey of trying to drop being something to become no thing, right? As we delve into the world of no thingness. So I've been meaning to do this video for a while, and now I've given myself like 5 minutes to do it. It's going to be a quick one. I see this come up a lot, this idea that the empath, the perfect fodder for the narcissist, who needs someone to fulfill their every whim in order for them to feel safe, the narcissist has this the empath has this tendency to want to fulfill every whim. They want to make everyone comfortable. The empath is this idea of this person who's so super sensitive. They feel everything. They step into a room and they have this innate ability to tune in and literally feel every vibration that is going on in there. As a negative side to this, and I can definitely relate to this, but this may grab a few of you, they also have this incredible ability to single out the most screwed up person in the world, in the room at the time, and spend all night talking to them about their problems. And it's not that they asked for this, it's just the nature of the empath is that they're vibrationally so sensitive, they attune very quickly to each and every single person, and it makes those people feel very comfortable. So there's huge benefit here, right? This is an amazing skill to have, but it also means that the empath can become very much a dumping ground where people are constantly offloading their problems. Now, as the empath will tell you, they actually don't mind this. However, the empath has also a tendency to identify and kind of get down in the dirt with this kind of empathetic tendency that they have to relate to everyone, and then also be able to listen to everyone's story and then feel for everyone. And through this process, to me, I see this very much as a retraumatisation. And the reality of the empath, much like the narcissist, is that these sensitivities or lack thereof of empathy and sensitivities, because that's the very extreme narcissistic end, is that their understanding of empathy is very limited. They're not without it, they actually need it, but it's very limited. So the empath has a huge understanding of empathy, but both situations, the narcissist and the empath, they come about because of trauma. So the narcissistic sort of occurrence is the response to being traumatized. I didn't get what I needed as a child. I felt unsafe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to have this incredible ability to test the environment that I'm in for what I need. And as a result, I'm very good at reading whether someone can give me what I need or not. And that person will be attractive to me. The empath, you see where this is going, right? Can find the person in the room who needs the most, and in order to try and plug the hole leaking in the room, will probably end up sidled alongside with that person, doing their very best to help them out. But they've become the empath because also in their early childhood, they were traumatized and didn't get what they needed, and they perceived the way to get that was to be more understanding, was to be very sensitive to the emotions of their parent in order to keep the calm, in order to keep it safe, in order to control their environment. Both are actually methods of control to keep oneself safe. In one situation, the narcissist, ever looking for a safe situation where they will not be abandoned and ultimately fearing abandonment the most, becomes this hideous self-fulfilling prophecy whereby they treat people so badly, crippling them and breaking their kneecaps so they can't escape, that eventually they are abandoned and left alone. And they fulfill their greatest fear, that everyone will leave them. The empath also has a similar fear, that everyone will leave them. And they believe that this is because they have not been enough. And so they do the opposite. Instead of trying to bring the other down, they do their very best to lift the other up. But as they do this, they don't allow any room for their own needs. And they end up feeling absolutely exhausted. So I myself, and I have friends also, great people, this is not a judgment on empaths at all, have had this tendency to put out a lot and then retreat. Put out a lot and then retreat, absolutely exhausted. Now, I don't want it to sound like the empath is either absolutely selfless, because I don't think that's true, nor are they absolutely selfish. But the action of their empathy, whereby they throw themselves onto the cross and kind of commit a suicide every time they put something out, because they're identifying too much with this other person, this is a selfish act. And this selfish act has a huge tax, which they end up paying. It also potentially encourages this other person, potentially, not always, of course, potentially encourages this other person to stay where they are. So this word empath is what I take issue with. I don't think this is the act of the empath, whilst empathy is required. I think that this person and this behavioral traumatic pattern should be considered the sympath. And the empath is a graduation from sympath. And the empath can be a graduation from also narcissist. Now, we might be running a bit of a stretch there, and I don't want to get into a psychologist or a psychotherapist area with the narcissist, but I fail to believe that anyone is completely incapable of shifting where they're at. I think meditation is a very powerful medication. And through meditation, through a level of honesty that is just beyond and shocking, anybody can change. The narcissist is a very clever ego structure that can be so offensive you wouldn't dare challenge it. But the empath is also a clever ego structure whereby the very nature of their kindness and the very nature of their empathy, their sensitivity, and this need to retreat in order to rejuvenate leaves them also unchallenged. So to my fellow friends out there who I believe are more sympaths than empaths, the challenge for those of you living in this sympathetic environment where instead of reaching a hand down and inviting someone up to join you in your high vibration, you are getting down and rolling around in the dirt and re-traumatizing on someone else's trauma and therefore finding yourself exhausted. I want you to consider that sympathy only devalues humanity, and that it is sympathetic to not see that by identifying with a person, with someone else's trauma, all we are doing is doubling the trauma. And actually what we want to do is, by all means, hear the story, but don't identify with it. Don't get down and roll around in those emotions. They're not yours, and they don't need to be doubled. Actually, the empath can hear the story and then can reflect back to the person what the person can do to be powerful within their trauma, how they can re-own their life and reclaim this trauma as something they now have power over, and they can transcend it. I had a conversation earlier today with a friend of mine which was about the traumas in our lives. And we were talking about, both of us have dead parents. And it sounds like a horrible thing, but death is something that actually gives us a great understanding of compassion and a great understanding of what living really is about. And I relayed something to her, and she said, I can even hear in your voice, after all of these years, I can still hear the pain there. And I said, yeah, I don't think we ever get over these things. We learn to transcend them, and we learn to live with them, and we learn from them. And I think, again, it's a degradation of humanity to suggest to anyone they should get over it. It's an extreme lack of compassion to do this to fellow man. Our traumas, our pains, the hurts that we have in our life, they are the things that also give us great gifts. And we're meant to learn with them and grow with them. And that doesn't mean that when we think back on them that they don't hurt. So my invitation to my fellow empaths is, compassion is not wallowing in the dirt with other people's trauma. Compassion is helping people, and empathy is helping people to see how they can be re-empowered and to leave their emotions with them as their own. I'm sure this will get some comments. Feel free to comment below, like and subscribe. By all means, be controversial. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you, but your conversation is welcome. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who do agree with you. I'm not always right. This is just my thoughts for the day. Erin, Zen Warrior, signing out. Bye all.